You are listening to the Critical Mass Radio Show, Orange County's business talk show, focused on exploring topics of interest to CEOs who are leading middle market companies. With your host, Richard Franzi.
Hello and welcome to Orange County's longest running business talk show. And yes, I am your host, Rick Franzi. And boy, do we have a good show planned for you today. Why do you ask? Because Alex Scoble is our guest. He is an entrepreneur. He's the managing partner and owner of Westlake Media Labs. Alex, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start in the beginning. Your origin story, the motivation, inspiration that you had to start Westlake Media Labs.
Sure. So I've been in marketing for some time now, and I realized that there's a lot of companies, especially small businesses, that just don't have the budget to hire top-tier marketing executives. And so when I thought of Westlake Media Labs, I thought it'd be a great opportunity to offer a way for these smaller businesses to be able to hire C-level executives at a fraction of the cost, especially executives that have over 20 years of experience. So the need was really there for some time. And, I just decided, why not try it?
So you're in your first year at Westlake Media Labs, yeah?
Going over a year now, yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
Congratulations on that. So
Thank you.
check that box. That's one milestone. Have you
Yeah.
had any pivots to the original business philosophy or thesis when you launched Westlake Media Labs?
Yes. So when we first launched, I think it's a common mistake where you want to try too many things.
Mhm.
So coming from a marketing background, I'm like, well, we could do SEO, we could really do campaign management, we could do paid ads, paid social. And then I got to the point where I'm like, you know what? Simpler is better. So now we're really just honing down on fractional CMO services, which has been really nice because it simplifies what we offer and it allows us to really be working with the individuals at a company that I think allow us to make the biggest impact.
Do prospects, SMB clients, when you use the term CMO, are they on point with you or do you have to define it a little bit? How does that conversation go?
It depends. I'd say 90% of the time, they understand the CMO as a service or the fractional CMO offer.
Okay.
Oftentimes, you'll have to go into it and explain to them that we are marketing executives that will work with the founders and any of the advisors as needed to really help guide them in the direction that they need to be as far as marketing is concerned. But it really kind of depends on the business itself.
Uh-huh. So let's put a further point on your niche. Who specifically are you targeting? What problems do you help them to solve? And then if there is an ideal client or someone who you're finding is really leveraging your model and getting deep value from it, can you just kind of describe that organization or individual?
Sure. So a lot of our main clients are smaller to mid-sized companies that really can't afford to hire a full-time marketing executive. They don't have the budget for it. So what we found is that our offerings of a daily rate or a monthly retainer allow for them to have us on board to kind of guide the ship, so to speak. And our philosophy is really we'd rather teach someone how to fish versus fish for them, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So we'll work with the founders and the executives to really guide them and teach them, look, here are the basics as to what you need to look after. Here are the KPIs you should be monitoring. Here's the strategy for your particular businesses. Here's how we would handle it. And we really leave it up to the client at that point to tell us how much they need us per day, right? Or how many days a month, how many times a week, right? And we really are really flexible so that business of all sizes can really work with us and so that we can help them as most we can by really educating them versus doing it for them all the time. We try to really instill the philosophy, have them understand the strategy. And if they want us to be on board more so, we will, but we really try to be providing, essentially take a step back and say, look, here's what we need to do. Here's the tools to do it. If you want us to do it, that's fine. But I'd rather teach them how to do it themselves so that we're there as a support system as opposed to on a daily basis.
So it has been my experience, and you articulated it at the beginning of the show. Marketing is a confusing mix of different things. Different companies need different things and KPIs. How do you help a founder or an SMB executive determine of all the things they could do, what are the right things for their business for them to do in the area of marketing?
Sure. So we start with our goals, right? So I'll meet with the founders or the executives and understand kind of where they want to be on a quarter-to-quarter basis. And then from there, we'll work backwards. So they have particular sales numbers, revenue numbers. We'll look then at their actual financials, look at their profit margins, and understand essentially by channel, what do we have to do to maximize that ROI? So we really try to focus on their needs, and then from there, organize a plan that really allows them to achieve their goal as fast and as efficiently as possible. We're very much about the bottom line.
Okay, well, that's good because a lot of time and effort and then money can be invested in different areas of marketing, almost because others are doing it. So they, oh, I've got to be on social.
I
I
try to
have
get on
to,
the bandwagon. Yeah,
right. And
yeah,
then because they aren't doing probably the few right things, they sometimes get jaded, if I could say,
yeah,
from my experience, Alex, with the whole
yeah.
idea of marketing. Well, we
Yes,
tried that and that didn't work out. And
right.
many times marketing is really sales support.
Correct. Correct.
And that's an important role for marketing to play, but that's not all that marketing could or should be doing for an early stage or growth company, right?
Yeah, I agree. And a lot of the clients we have, we actually tell them it's not the right time to spend money. We actually try to avoid spending money unless we have to, if that
Hmm.
makes sense. Because fundamentally, the first thing you need to do is really make sure that you have all the proper assets in place before you start sending traffic to the website or you start negotiating some sort of partnership. So we really look internally first at essentially the website, that if they have a proper funnel for generating the leads and working with the sales team, the sales process, and then from there making sure there's proper attribution. Once we have the basics in place, then we start exploring the avenues of driving traffic or establishing demand generation for the products or services they offer. So we really try to be very cost conscientious with our clients, because what we don't want is that they go through and spend $500,000, $1 million in advertising, but they're not ready for that. So we really go with the fundamentals first to make sure that the client is really ready. And once they're ready, we have proper attribution, proper tracking, and proper way of tracking and also processing the leads and or the transactions. Then we work through the process of establishing a game plan for actual acquisition of traffic and sales.
Yeah, I think many times my experience is many business owners don't appreciate the subtleties and complexities of successful marketing, especially around messaging and
Yes.
and the time and effort required to hone the message to ensure that it resonates. Because what you're really trying to do is change people's behavior, right? Through
Right.
marketing. You're trying to,
There's a lot
and
of,
that's
there's a lot of
hard.
psychology. That's right. There's a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah,
psychology behind it. Absolutely.
yeah,
I
yeah.
should have
And
been a
then
therapist.
right. And depending on if they're B2B or B2C, those are different messaging. And so,
Yeah.
so I love to hear you say spending the time to make sure you're ready to, because entrepreneurs want to do something, right?
Right.
We're D's, we're action oriented folks.
Right.
But
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's, I mean, you're absolutely right, because a lot of times people are ready to spend the money because they've just gotten funding, but I tell them no in a nice way, right? Because I've seen so many companies spend enormous amounts of money when they're not ready. And then they can't process the traffic properly, or they send them to landing pages that don't convert. And so what ends up happening is that they waste that money and then they get discouraged, and then they miss the opportunity to actually grow and drive revenue. So it's
yeah,
sometimes it's better to say no in a nice way and educate them. And that's why I go back to I like to educate the founders and the executive team on the strategy and the philosophy, because the more that they're on board, the easier it is for them to understand when we need to wait for certain action items to occur.
mhm,
Right? That it's all about timing, and it's about having the proper infrastructure before you start spending the money. And with us, we're very cost efficient, not just with the different channels that you know, we we propose to the client, but also with our time. Right? We want to make sure that they're getting the most out of us and also the most out of their advertising campaigns.
So I see that a LinkedIn user says, thanks for saving us a ton of money. Changing behavior isn't easy, but that's the key to our company's success. So
Appreciate
uh,
that.
Thank you. And we encourage anyone in the listening audience to the live broadcast on any of our 3 platforms. If you have something you want to say, write it down, and Haley, our producer, will help to bring it to the screen. All right, so let's shift our focus to a different idea, which is business advice. Is there a piece of advice that you have found in your role to be valuable that you could pay it forward and share with our audience today?
I think there's 2. The first one that comes to mind is that everyone fails, so fail quickly, learn from it, and then try again. And I think the second one, especially with starting a new business, is that to be successful, you really have to bet on yourself. There's going to be a lot of people out there who might question what you're doing or doubt you, but as long as you don't doubt yourself, you'll have the best chance you can.
That's really a good advice, because I work with many times entrepreneurs who have outside money, angels, VCs, whatever, and that money comes with a lot of opinions.
Yeah. Yes. And then when to accept the money is the other thing, right? Sometimes accepting little money is better than accepting a lot of money.
Yeah. And understanding who is the person that's, many times when I have VCs or angels on my show, they talk about investing in the entrepreneur more than the business.
Right.
And I think the opposite of that is, as an entrepreneur, you need to take the investor, not the money.
Right.
Because if you get the wrong people on board, they could be very distracting, I would think, disruptive to your business, especially in the early days where you're working harder than the results show. I mean, that's been my experience. Early stage companies tend to put much more effort and energy into getting the business model and the flywheel spinning than the results would indicate. And so you can be questioned a lot about, are you on point? Is this the right strategy? And
yeah. Absolutely.
And
having the right partners, right investors makes a big difference in the success rate too, right?
Yeah, right. Smart. I guess they say smart money. I don't know, but I think people that are understanding of the business and your vision for the business, because sometimes if you're disrupting, you don't have a lot of models to point to that you can copy. You're sort of doing it for the first time, aren't you?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's when your role as a fractional CMO can be so valuable, because that's really the early stages of customer acquisition is a lot of what marketing is doing, isn't it? It takes a long time to nurture them through the sales funnel.
It does. And also just making sure that you have the right sales funnel in place, right? That everything's working the way it should be. Tracking, attribution, right? Funneling right to the right people, the right salespeople, processing the right transactions, right? The right products, delivery, shipping. So there's a lot of things that have to kind of go through that. And, as they say, in racing, you're only as strong as your weakest link, right? So you have to make sure that everything is working the way it should. And you have to have a few run throughs before you understand what is working and what's not working.
Right.
So
And if something's working, then how do you institutionalize it to ensure that it's a part of everybody's approach and that it's a part of every sales process?
Right.
Yes.
And then once you have that process, then you can work on scaling, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I think of it. I think it was Jim Collins who talked about the flywheel in your business, which is kind of what I see is, you've got a repeatable process that you can then invest in, that the faster it spins, hopefully the more clients you're getting and the better your business is. So as you're building Westlake Media Labs, have you ever felt isolated or alone in this role as this founder, Alex?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty normal feeling for most people starting something new. But I'd say that, family, friends, colleagues, my girlfriend, I mean, they've all been so supportive that it really has counterbalanced all the negativity or all the feeling of loneliness I had before. I definitely couldn't do it without my friends and family. And it's been a huge factor, especially my girlfriend. But it's, I think it's a feeling that you'll have no matter what. But I think it's about overcoming that with, believing in yourself, right? Betting on yourself and just kind of going for it.
Yeah. I think many people who want to become an entrepreneur see all the opportunity. Oh, I have schedule flexibility. I won't have a boss. I can do the things in business I've always wanted to do. And that is true, as long as
Yes.
you also bring with it the pressure and responsibility and isolation that you might feel from
Yeah,
that responsibility.
it can be hard to motivate yourself, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you wake up whenever you want to wake up. You have coffee when you want to have coffee, and then all of a sudden it's 10 o'clock. You're like, oh, I guess I should
Jesus.
open up my email.
Yeah, I'll be working till 10 o'clock tonight. Oh, Kimberly Evans says Westlake Media Labs has been a godsend for my business. Well, that is fantastic. Evans Hand Therapy is a small business, and the thought of hiring a marketing was never an option. Thanks to Alex and his team,
Thank you, Kimberly.
I've been able to expand and grow tenfold. We've opened a second location since utilizing his services. Well, that is a ringing endorsement from Kimberly. And thank you, Kimberly, for being a
Thank you,
guest,
Kimberly.
a listener, and commenting. I think this is great. I encourage others. So here's another one. It's a question. There's a ton of agencies out there. Why would someone go with Westlake Media fractional approach versus hiring any other agency? Well, there you go. Now we have someone who's acting as the host of the show. It's great.
That's a great question. Well, I think that we're different. I think in many ways. One is that we come along as fractional CMOs versus hiring an agency that may be well versed in many things, but not in C-level executive services. So what we do primarily different is that we try to avoid offering the day-to-day campaign management. Instead, we focus on working as an executive with other executives and founders at companies to really help guide them and provide the strategy and the overall plan for growth and scalability. We will, however, work with other agencies and bring them on as partners if needed. So that's where it's almost, you can almost think of us as like the anti-agency agency, where we're not an agency, but we work with others, we play nice, and we bring on people and companies that can complement what we're trying to do. But we really try to avoid doing the day-to-day stuff that a normal traditional agency would do.
Okay, so it's really sitting at the C-suite
Correct.
and having that experience to be able to
Correct.
have the strategic conversation.
Correct. And
Okay.
think of it as if we are trying to service business owners and smaller to mid-sized companies who can't afford a full-time CMO, but still need a guiding hand, right? They still need to throw ideas at us and see what we think. We're there to really help assist them in making the better informed decisions so they can go ahead and grow without requiring them to spend $200,000 to $300,000 a year on a CMO.
So that resonated with another one of our listeners today, the anti-agency. That's gold. There's gold in that mindset. That's pretty cool. All right. I love the way our audience is engaging today with your interview, Alex. That speaks to the quality of the content. Let's talk about artificial intelligence. And
Sure.
what's your view relative to your industry, your company? What are your clients saying?
Well, it's not going anywhere, meaning it's going to be around for some time. We've already started using it for a lot of our clients as far as, ways to speed the process up, using it to analyze data sets, find ways to hone in on different segmentation processes we have. And also allows us to really cut costs as far as the ability to really centrify a lot of our services into one. So it's not going away. I think it's great that it's around so we can use it to expedite the process of delivering results to clients. I think it's going to get more and more involved, but I'm actually looking forward to it. It's personal virtual assistants are going to be AI assistants, right? It's going to be making the process so much faster to get answers we need to be able to make decisions for our clients.
Yeah, that's great. Good perspective. All right, let's look to the future, my friend. What's your vision for the future of Westlake Media Labs?
It's I think it's an interesting question because I want us to continue at the pace we're at so we can have the time to service our clients on this very one-on-one, personal experience that clients have with us. But I see us growing. So I think what's going to end up happening is that as we grow, we'll bring on more people to continue providing that really one-on-one experience so that you're working directly with the person that takes initial call versus hiring a big team and then losing that throughout the process. So I see growth, and I see more people coming on board to continue what we started.
I imagine those people will have the kind of pedigree that allows them to sit at the table and function as a CMO.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. The real question is how do we stay small enough to provide the same level of service but grow at the same time, right? So I think the answer is going to be bringing on more people with the type of experience that these smaller to mid-sized companies need as far as C-level suite.
Yeah, that's the entrepreneur's dilemma.
Yes.
One of the many that they have to deal with.
One of the many.
So let's say someone would like to reach out to you on LinkedIn. What's your LinkedIn handle and how do people find your company online?
Sure. My handle is linkedin.com/in/Alex Scoble. You can find me there. You can also just go to our website, wesseggmedialabs.com, and then fill out a form or calls.
Well, I'm sure there's people in the listening audience today that will do that. And hopefully, as they listen to the podcast and other ways, they'll do that as well. Alex, I have enjoyed our conversation. And for those of you that are in the listening audience that posted your comment, thank you for engaging with the conversation that I had today with Alex. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Rick.
All right. And if you're an Orange County entrepreneur or a nonprofit leader, and you would like to share your story with my audience, it's really easy. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. If we're not a first level connection, send me a connection request, say something like that in the message. I'll be happy to talk with you and Haley, our producer, and explain what's involved in being a future guest on the platform. We love to focus on Orange County entrepreneurs and nonprofit leaders on the show. That's all we do. And until the next time we all have a chance to be together, I hope all of your business decisions will move your organization in a positive direction.